If you are interested in starting your own podcast, we use Buzzsprout because it is simple and easy to use. Buzzsprout can get your show listed on every major platform while giving you the resources for a great podcast website, audio players that can drop into other websites, detailed analytics to see how people are listening to your podcast, and tools to promote your episodes. Podcasting isn't hard when you have the right partners, and that is why over 100,000 podcasters are already subscribed to Buzzsprout to get their message out to the world. Following the link in our episode descriptions lets Buzzsprout know that we sent you. So in return, you will receive a $20 Amazon gift card from Buzzsprout while signing up for a paid plan. Most importantly, every subscription through our link is always appreciated and helps support our show so we can continue delivering the quality content that you guys listen to. That being said, back to the show.
Hello, and welcome to Comic Book Junkies. I'm Andrew,
This is Joe.
and this time we're coming at you with another list episode. This time we're not combining our lists. We're actually going to go ahead and do each of our top 10s. And this time around, we're doing our top 10 favorite comic covers. So, shoot, you can listen through all of our episodes where we've gone through Golden Age, Silver Age, Bronze Age. You can see some of the biggest books on there. There might be some overlap here, but that's more to say that there's a ton of books throughout comic history in case you weren't aware. So there's plenty of options. It's kind of hard to narrow it down. I'll say personally, like there's definitely a lot on here that I would say are my for sure favorites, but then as we get towards the bottom, it starts to get a little murky depending on, how I'm feeling, I guess. But yeah, we're gonna go through. We'll kind of just take turns talking about books. I would say mine are not any particular order. I'm sure you probably have it a bit more rigid, but yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to be rigid with it, but as I went through, did some research, thumbed through my own personal collection, what's to say one's really better than the other? It's just I put a bunch of books on here that make me feel good. And I tried to kind of weigh it a little bit, but in the same breath, yeah, like if you told me that my seven's better than my five, I probably wouldn't argue against you. But I guess to preface it, doing this research, I kind of did a little self-reflecting. So I'm really sad to spoil something, but I don't have any Ditko covers on here, and I don't have any Jack Kirby covers, and those are my two favorite artists of all time.
Interesting.
So it feels a little sacrilegious, and I think I'll be doing some more personal reflecting after this episode because I feel like there's somewhere where I probably went wrong, and it's probably in my
Yeah,
my
dude.
bottom five. But additionally,
We
I
need to send
noticed
you to
some.
a camp.
Yeah, like, you could, and I
Pray,
would volunteer for it because I feel like a
pray,
psycho right now.
pray that away. See if you come back with some better opinions on Kirby, huh?
I need to do some more prayers and take some more vitamins. Reference to
Yeah.
our first ever episode. But no, I definitely noticed some themes when going over it. I noticed that I kind of left a lot of Batman and Green Lantern covers out, which is kind of surprising because a lot of those were really hard to keep off the list. But in
Yeah.
general, I feel like my favorite titles as far as covers go are Spider-Man and X-Men. Some of the coolest covers, in my opinion. And my favorite character I like to see on a cover, I think, is the Hulk. But I
Oh,
guess
very
we'll go,
nice.
yeah, go into that when we get into our top 10. But I mean, quick shout out like Hulk 181, even Hulk 105. They didn't make my top 10 list, but like, seemed like there's just so much good Hulk. But going into number 10, the only Green Lantern book I have on this list, and it's a really silly one too. So it's more for fun, to be honest. Let me preface it like this. I have no idea who the actual cover artist is on this book, so I'll have to do some research after the pod. But Green Lantern 49, it doesn't even resemble like a normal Hal Jordan at all, but it's kind of visually a very catchy cover to me. It kind of reminds me of Brian Boland's Killing Joke, but with how mad the character or like crazy the character looks. But I kind of even like it more than the way Joker looks when he's taking a picture of naked Barbara Gordon. And it's kind of loud, but in a good way. And I find that a lot of people find this cover to be a classic for how inexpensive it is. That, and I just love Green Lantern. So I had to get a cover of his on here in general. So I guess I'm picking this one to go with my number 10. What's your number 10 burger?
I actually just changed it on the fly. I'm just gonna let you know it's like we'll just put it as an honorable mention. I did have Action Comics 1, which if you just listen to our Golden Age one, that was our biggest book, obviously. I had that on there, but I just replaced it with more of a book that like I just find sweet. So I'm gonna go with Savage Tales 1, the magazine actually. It's the first appearance of Man-Thing, but I mean it's just a badass cover of Conan the Barbarian holding like a severed head and a sword. Enough said. It's probably my favorite Conan related piece of art. I mean I'd like issue one's cover a lot as well if we're talking about Conan the Barbarian. But yeah, I feel like that's one of like it's like especially because it's a magazine, it's just classic. He's got like a chick grabbing on his leg. He's got a bloody sword, and yeah, he's holding up like a head while he's like fighting off all these other freaks. It's just badass.
It's got all the badassness of Conan the Barbarian on a bigger scale, but also kind of gives you like dark horror vibes. Not just because of the
Yeah.
image, but kind of the colors too.
Yeah, it's kind of muted and more gray and stuff like that. It's not very vivid. It's just kind of like we're here to fuck shit up.
Yeah, for sure. All business. And speaking of which, going into number 9, I got Wolverine issue 8, John Buscema cover. And I can't say enough good things about this artist. He almost made my top 10 list multiple times. I was thumbing through my books and I looked at my Submariner issue 8, my Fantastic Four issue 112, and then books I don't even own. Like, didn't he do that classic Thor cover in Silver Surfer when they're fighting on that rainbow
I
Silver
believe
Surfer Four?
so.
I
I'm
think he
not sure.
did.
I know he did Silver Surfer 1.
Yeah, he for sure did that. I'm pretty sure he did the first appearance of Vision. He's done a lot of work on Conan, Wolverine, you name it. But
Buscema goes hard.
a reason I went with this cover, though, even though there's other probably more classic covers, is just it gives me such a vibrant feeling. And I don't know if it's just deceptive because of the colors of the actual book, but every time I thumb through my collection, like my minor keys, I pull up that book and it kind of reminds me of how cool collecting is as a hobby. I remember seeing this book for the very first time when I was sorting Juan's collection, and something just drew me to that book, and I kind of paused on it. And then eventually, over time, I spent a pretty penny getting like a mint copy for myself. But it's just a book that less is more. It's very simple. It's just Wolverine and Grey Hulk on the cover, and for some reason, it's louder than everything that's going on the actual cover.
Yeah, it's just a clean, like simple cover, and it kind of reminds me of like the movie Twins with like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito because they're both just like standing there next to each other. You got like the little runt one, then like the big beef one. So it just kind of reminds me of that. It's kind of got like a little bit of like goofiness to it because of like the two of them and like their shared history, but like at the same time, it's like badass. So yeah, it's a good choice.
Thank you.
Well, to follow it up, it's not the same vibe at all, but Fantastic Four issue 49. So for those who don't know, it's like the first cover appearance of Galactus, Silver Surfer as well. I mean, it's just a classic. I mean, when you think of like the Silver Age, you think of like the Fantastic Four, the good times of comics. Like this is kind of one of the covers that kind of pops in my head, like when you kind of think about like what the Silver Age was about, it's just menacing. Like you get like the little cameo of Galactus in the at the end of issue 48. But then just the pop up on the cover, the awesome coloring, like Galactus is like green, but then it's got the red kind of background mixed with the black. So it's like, it's ominous. It's as if this be Doomsday. The Fantastic Four are all running away. Everything's getting destroyed. I don't know. I feel like it kind of sums up that time and place in comics for me, and it's badass. It's also one of the earlier books that I collected before I started to really ramp up and collect a bunch of like big ticket books. So it's got a place in my heart and my collection.
Yeah, I mean there's so many good Fantastic Four covers, but that might be the best one.
I would have to agree.
I like it better than issue 48 as a
Oh yeah,
cover.
Butthead.
Yeah, Butthead. And it would be hard because I forgot which one is the Watcher, but that cover is pretty sick too. Like some of that
Is that issue
really early Fantastic
13?
Four. That sounds right. But yeah, I mean 49 all the way. But going into my number 8, it's kind of cheating. But I put Incredible Hulk 340, 344, and 345. The whole like Todd McFarlane run on Hulk. Like Todd McFarlane on Hulk, enough said. I just love all of it. And he's my favorite character to see Todd McFarlane do. Sometimes Todd McFarlane stuff kind of gets a little repetitive and annoying, and he's not a top 5 artist for me, but just his work on Hulk specifically is just everything I visualized the character to be in like my childhood. I know it's not
Yeah.
like OG Hulk, but it kind of just being a 90s kid that's how I visualize my Hulk, and Hulk's like one of my two favorite Marvel characters. So I had to just give like a shout out to that like run on Hulk.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean they're all classic. I mean, just the fact that like it's like 90s books and they still command some type of money, more than like $5 is kind of just like a testament to how influential like and iconic the art is. But to change gears, we're going back to the Silver Age for my eighth one here. Superman's Girlfriend Lois Lane issue 1. This is a book I got like years back. It was kind of out of left field, but it was, it's something I bought off eBay. It was kind of like a I'm gonna change directions in my collection type deal. And I feel like it's just there's something to the covers for me when I don't know if it's necessarily like the moon or if there's just like a bold circle in the middle of a cover, with the contrast in the background. Sometimes that just does it for me. There's some Golden Age like Green Lantern books that do some of the same things.
Totally
But I mean,
agree. Not
yeah,
to
there's just
interrupt
some,
you, but like, yeah, that Hulk cover that I just referenced has like a moon in it, and then I'll talk about it later, but Amazing Spider-Man 300, like anything that's
yeah.
got like a full circle in it goes hard.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but shapes are cool. But then it's just also just the iconic to me at least. It's Silver Age Superman. I love the way he's drawn. Lois looks like a witch. She's riding on a broomstick. That's classic. I mean, they even reuse that cover on, I think, some like annuals and some giant size issues for Lois Lane. I don't know. It's just a cool one I like to look at. It's something, I mean, not just because it's in my collection, but it is just something different to look at, especially in the superhero realm. And yeah, something that paired with the circle just goes hard.
Yeah, I find myself when I look through your collection, I stop at that book every time. And Wonder Woman 98 now.
Yeah, I do. I like that one too. That one didn't make the list, but there's something about it.
There's something about a few of those books where you just pause and you're like, this is sick. But going into my number seven, and it's kind of one of the last modern books I have on my list, unless I'm missing something. Not even literally modern, but I'm newer. Strange Adventures 207. So Neil Adams, too many great covers. And I could have went with like a Batman or a Green Lantern cover here, but I surprisingly went with the cover of a book that I don't even personally own. And it's not because they're like really like unaffordable. It's just I never see them in person. I would buy one on site. Dead Man's not even like a huge deal to me, but the way that Neil Adams does Dead Man on that cover, it's just I don't know, conveys so much energy and emotion, and it feels like real. And it also gives a little bit of like a horror vibe in a sense, but you see it time and time again with the Speedy drug cover. His books are just so unique. All of his covers are, and I had to give Neil Adams some love on this list. So I ended up going with something that's just famous because of the cover.
Yeah, I mean that cover is really cool. It's not one that I see very often either. It's probably because like there's like a whole little run there in Strange Adventures where it's all just cool Neil Adams covers, but that one I agree is like by far the best, especially with like the color contrast in the back of like all the green heads against like the red costume. That goes hard. But to move up my list, we're going to the Golden Age here. Don't worry, I do have some books on here that I don't own coming up actually, but this is another one of mine that I do have. It's Captain Marvel Adventures 3. So it's a very clean, very simple cover. It's really honestly not that remarkable, but it's one of the books that like I look at and I'm like, hell yeah, when I see it. Especially compared to the cover of Captain Marvel Adventures 2, which I think is like not as cool. But this one's got like the metallic lightning bolt going through it. It's got Captain Marvel just running like an action pose, and then it's got like the cloud behind him, as he transforms. It's very simple, but like the way that they structure the cover, where it's got the 64 new pages of Captain Marvel, like up in the top left corner, it's got the Thunderbolt coming from the top right corner, and then everything else is just centered, and then it's just similar to the circle thing, even though it's not a circle, it's more of a cloud. It's got the contrast in the middle between like the light orange and the like deep blue background. So I don't know. It's very simple. I mean, to most who aren't a fan of the character, I could see being like whatever. But there's something about it that to me is just like this is cool.
For sure. I find less is more on covers, to be honest. When
Yeah,
there's too much going on, I get a little frustrated or confused.
Yeah, definitely confused, especially when there's too many words. I'm just like, who's this for?
Yeah. You know, it's funny. I don't often read the word bubbles on the cover. I might once, but like sometimes it doesn't even matter what they're saying. I just kind of I'm drawn to the art.
Yeah, words are for the inside nerd.
Yeah. But going into number six, this one was tough because I love a lot of covers on this title by this artist. It's Dave Cockrum on Giant Size X-Men issue one. No shade to
Sick.
Burn because he's one of the goats on X-Men, but Cockrum is the best X-Men cover artist to ever exist.
Hmm.
He's got so many good covers, and I almost even put issue 101 on this list and doubled up with
Ooh.
Phoenix rising and Cyclops sinking into the water. But going back to Giant Size, do you remember that Justice League of America issue 21, I think? It's like that JSA cover where you got like the JSA members above the Justice
Yeah.
League. This Giant Size X-Men cover kind of reminds me of that because you got like the original squad as like almost spiritually looking at the new squad and like the past is kind of seeing the future. But this is even like more well done and unique. And I feel like it sends a really strong message on the cover. And it's just the perfect interpretation of how I see X-Men characters in general, like how they're supposed to look and feel. So I went with Giant Size X-Men 1, and hopefully I can get my mitts on one next year.
Next year. Yeah, dude, I bet you could. I'd like to upgrade mine now that I'm looking at mine right now. Mine's a little faded, but yeah, it's a great cover. Finally, a book I don't own. Brave and the Bold 28. First appearance of the Justice League. But more importantly, there's a giant starfish on the cover. Very cool. I mean, I got lizard brain. If I like really thought about it, I could have put like Showcase 20 and stuff on here just for like dinosaurs and like starfish and shit. But I mean, this one's sick. I mean, the whole Justice League. I mean, obviously there's no Batman or Superman on there, but I mean, the whole squad's fighting a giant starfish. I mean, at the time that must have been like mind-blowingly cool. I mean, it's just iconic. I mean, every time I look at it, it's a cover I want. Like, it doesn't matter if it was their first appearance or not. Like, I want that book. I don't know what that means necessarily. It means maybe I just like the starfish, but like pretty cool, especially because the gang's getting like whooped on and kind of shows you that like there needs to be a Justice League to fight people of this magnitude, which great concept. And like, I don't know, there's a lot going on, but it's at the same time, it's not too much. The only part it really gets busy is at the top because it says the Brave and the Bold, and then the Justice League of America icon is like freaking huge. But the art itself is sweet, and it's one of my
Totally,
favorite villains.
totally agree. When I was looking through my books, I even considered putting Justice League of America issue 1 on there.
I like that one a lot too.
Yeah, I love all those team covers when it comes to Justice League. But going into my number five, I got House of Secrets 92. Had to put
Nice.
Bernie Wrightson on this list. Can't get over how slept on he is, to be honest with you. I've always been fascinated by his cover art and the horror element that he's been able to bring to DC Comics. And it's so consistent. I was looking at other House of Secret covers and even non-key issues, like issue 90. And then I was looking through like issues 1 through 10 on Swamp Thing and like specifically issue 3 and issue 9. I almost put issue 3 on this list. And like it's just because of how I felt flipping through my books. And it's not even like
Yeah.
a big book. It's just like it's not the same online. When you're actually holding one of these Bernie Wrightson books in your hand, it just hits harder than like iconic covers and different artists.
Yeah, I mean they do go hard. I mean that whole run is just full of great cover art. And I mean, obviously that being the first one, House of Secrets 92 just that was on my list for a little bit too, but then I had a feeling it'd be on yours and I started moving some things around.
Yeah, I
Um,
guess I didn't really
but
talk about the value of 92 itself that much, but I mean, you could even do some research on that cover. Like, there's a lot of nuance and thought put into it.
I agree. Moving on to whatever number I'm on is a book I don't own as well, but would love to someday. I looked at some while I was in Florida on my honeymoon, but they were all beaters. Batman 156. So it may not be the most iconic compared to many of the books that we've listed, but I mean it's a really cool cover. I mean it's got like all the colors you can want on it, which I always like when they like can like tastefully do that. Where it's kind of like there's a lot, but it's not too much. Like it makes sense. But it's the iconic cover where by Sheldon Moldoff, where Batman's holding a Dead Robin, which I mean obviously has been like cover swiped, in Crisis and like several other books. Just iconic. It's one of those first like hero holding a dead hero type covers. And they're on an alien world, which makes it a little bit cooler. It's got like the red sun in the background, and it's just got like a nice little mix of everything. I really want one of those covers.
You like it when they're able to incorporate the whole rainbow on a cover?
Wouldn't put it that way, but I don't know. When they could do it tastefully, yeah. I mean, it's just I don't know how to even describe it because I'm just staring at it right now. It's got like everything. I don't know. It's cool.
No, I'm just giving you a
Because
hard time.
I know you are, but it's just sometimes like they try to put too much color on there and then it looks too busy or it does look like just like what the hell. But like this looks, I mean, especially because they're trying to do like a dawn on an alien planet, like I find that believable, even though I don't know what the hell that would actually look like. You know what I mean? Like it just like I don't know, it's sweet.
You feel it. Yeah.
I feel it.
Going into number four, I got, and this is not really like a super, I mean, it's a classic cover, but it's not like super classic, but Amazing Spider-Man 300. So it was one of my first ever big key issues I ever bought for myself. And I remember like not so much nowadays, but like when I first started collecting key issues, this was a book that I stopped on often to just take it out of the box and look at it. It's not like a blow your mind cover, but it is a classic and it visually defines, I think, what Spider-Man's supposed to look like in the 80s and 90s. And the kind of like the Spider-Man that Berger and I grew up on. It's kind of like what I was saying about Todd McFarlane on Hulk earlier. Like it's just, I don't know, the iconic webbing, and I guess it doesn't hurt that it's also the first full appearance of Venom, but I kind of feel like it marks like the peak of Todd McFarlane on Spider-Man at that time, and it's just a cool book.
It's cool. I don't know. Sometimes like it's really just the colors, man. Like the red and black in the background and then I don't know.
Yeah, I almost feel like I should be giving different shout outs because like the art's sick on a lot of these covers, but sometimes it's like the actual coloring that makes a cover really pop.
Colorist's been going hard. And I got something like that on my next book, Superman issue 14 back in the Golden Age. Don't have one, probably won't because of how early it is in the run, but this is the most like patriotic, sick cover of all time. I mean, it's literally Superman and standing in front of a star-spangled, stars and stripes shield, black cover, and he's got a freaking bald eagle perched on his arm. I mean, it doesn't go harder than that.
You can get a CGC 8.0 for 16,300 right now on eBay.
I'll make sure to save up. But hopefully I could find a beater one day like a 2.0 that won't cost my kidney.
I see a it says coverless. It's got half the cover on there for
Oh yeah.
885.
All right, so I'm not gonna own one, but I'll admire them from afar. It's one of the coolest covers, like, period, because if you live in the United States, why the hell would you not like that? But yeah, dude, it fucking rules. I'd love to get one, but I mean that's such an early Superman book, but they were really cooking back then. He has a lot of really good covers in his like early run.
Yeah, which makes me sad because I don't have a lot of Batman on here, and I especially don't have a lot of Superman on here. And Superman's my guy. It's my favorite guy. But
Yeah.
going into number three, Action Comics 1, book you brought up earlier. It's not even like the coolest ever cover. It's just badass. The cover, it's not so much what's on the cover as opposed to like what it actually represents for the comic book medium. The cover's classic. It serves as like a framework for everything to come out afterwards. It's just the definition of cool covers and what comic books are supposed to look like and what the image really symbolizes, I guess, to me personally. But I don't know. It's kind of more valuable than what I can describe on this podcast.
Yeah, it's like the cover, like it like started it all. Here's one of the biggest books on my want list at my number three, Journey into Mystery 89. So this is for all you Thor fans out there. Literally very simple cover yet again, kind of akin to Captain Marvel Adventures 3. It's just Thor kind of got his hand out like he's about ready to chuck the football, but in his other hand he's spinning around his hammer like hard as shit. And it's super cool. Really not much more to it than that. I mean, it's just like a rehash of the origin issue, and it's just a really cool, iconic cover by Jack Kirby and Dick Ayers. So, I mean, look it up if you're not familiar.
I'm not a big Thor fan at all, but this book almost made my top 10 because of how cool the cover is.
It's so cool. It doesn't make sense.
And to be honest, it's one of Jack Kirby's best covers, if I'm being honest.
Probably, I think I agree.
Yeah, but not to cut you short, but I guess going into our number two, I got Amazing Spider-Man 50, John Romita Sr. This was even homaged in the original Spider-Man movie trilogy, just like the cover, and I just love how powerful it is. And it probably my favorite Spider-Man cover of all time. I mean, most people would probably say Ditko's cover on Amazing 15, and I can't fault you for that. It is what it is. But I mean, just the image for it not being the first appearance is so powerful. Such a classic book, and it's also the first appearance of Kingpin. But him just kind of ready to throw everything away and how bold it is. This is one of the books that doesn't have like a lot of contrast as far as colors go. It's just like the idea or like the centralized image just really pops and is it just says something to me.
Yeah, it was on my list formerly as well until I started finding a little bit more personal books. It's iconic, it's classic. Another iconic classic, in my opinion, is my number two, Flash 123. First appearance of, well, the first Silver Age appearance of Jay Garrick, first appearance of like the multiverse, like Earth 2 concept. So it's a pretty influential book, but I mean, it's iconic. It's also had a lot of, cover swipes. It's got Barry Allen, it's got Jay Garrick, it's got like a construction worker saying, Flash, help me. They're both saying, I'm coming, while running on the like opposite sides of the wall, like the same brick wall as a like steel like girder like falls on this dude. I mean, it's classic. Every time you see it, it just evokes something in me because that's like such a I mean, it started a lot of big things at DC with Earth 2, especially, bringing the JSA into the modern continuity at that point in time. And it's a really cool cover, great coloring and everything.
Yeah, very significant book. Speaking of which, the most significant book cover wise, in my opinion, Incredible Hulk Annual One. I
Nice.
just got one of these. So, Jim Steranko, dude's the master of cover art. I love his cover art on X-Men and Captain America. I know I was talking about Claremont and Byrne, but people don't talk about Steranko enough. I'm not positive, but I think he did that issue where in X-Men where they all got the new costumes in issue 39. But I know for sure he also did that Polaris cover, issue 50, and the first actual appearance of Polaris, which is issue 49. And I love that cover too. A lot of that early X-Men work. And then there's like this one like 54 where there's I don't know, but there's a lot of good Steranko on X-Men, but I love his work specifically on this annual. I don't see him in person too often. Visually, it's my favorite ever comic book and also visually my favorite representation of the Hulk. And I'm nostalgic about this book because of the first place I ever had a pull list at. I saw this book in the wild once and it was there. And I don't remember what the price was, but I remember always wanting one and not being able to afford it. And now I have one and I just love everything it represents. And Jim Steranko's not my favorite artist by any means, but I just love what he was able to do to this cover. And then everything else he's done to some of my favorite titles in comics.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I'm glad you were able to get one. It is a sick cover. And now for my favorite cover, number one, Wiz Comics, issue 22. Very iconic. I believe it's the only issue that CC Beck actually scripted and wrote on top of being the artist for, even though I think Otto Binder probably helped with that. But Wiz Comics 22, I mean, it's classic. There's like a fucking, or it's the Wheaties, I think, or the Marvel Minis that even has like a reprint of it in a smaller format. But this cover is Captain Marvel, also known as Shazam, just standing there, and Billy's got his elbow sitting on his leg, and it's the two of them standing side by side with lightning in the background and smoke going up everywhere. It's got the nice yellow border behind the Wiz Comics, and pretty simple, pretty clean, but it just kind of reminds you of like a pinup type cover. Very cool, simple, clean artwork. And CC Beck was like basically my goat. So I'm pretty pumped to own a copy. I don't really think it gets better than that, though. I do really mess with, I forget which number. There is an issue where Captain Marvel does put a shark in a headlock. So I probably should have done a little bit more research. So I could have included that one. But yeah, I mean, Wiz 22 is my favorite. And I think that wraps us up. That's 20 of our favorite covers. I'm sure you hit us up any other time. I'm sure some of those may fall up or down the list, may completely fall off the list, depends on what we're feeling. But to see some of these books that we do have, I'm sure we posted them. And if not, we will be posting them in the near term future. You can go to CBJ Pod on Instagram at CBJ Pod. We're comic book junkies on YouTube. We're everywhere on podcasts. Tell a friend, rate, review, subscribe. That all really does help. Helps feed the algorithm, push us out to more fans. And yeah, if you just want to hit us up, ask us questions, just chat. Instagram is the best way to do it. Our Twitter is basically dead. It just keeps getting followed by bots. I mean, I don't like Twitter anymore, anyways. So, really, Instagram is the way. Facebook is also the way if you want. We are active on there as well. We appreciate you all for sitting through this. If you're new here, welcome. If you've been here before, we appreciate you sitting through another one. And with that, we'll cook up something good for you again next time.
All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed our favorites. Again, not the most iconic, just our personal favorites. Would love to hear your guys' personal favorites. And I had a lot of fun recording this, so hopefully you enjoyed listening. Thank you.
Thank you.